this video will cover the wrap-up we did on our Instagram of the Texas Pro. We do these all at one time when we go live. However, I think doing them on the wrap-ups for YouTube is going to be easier to break them up into shows. So sit back and enjoy. This is the Texas Pro breakdown with pictures, all coming from NPCNewsOnline. And if you like this sort of content, please like, comment, and subscribe so I can bring you more of it. Thanks, guys.
We have a BSPN night tonight. We are going to wrap up the pro shows from this weekend. And man, they were some doozies. Some doozies this weekend. We're going to go over what happened in Texas. We're going to go over what happened in Tahoe, both bikini and wellness in Tahoe. And just some implications of things that happened and what's going to happen going forward. I caught live feeds of Texas while I was out on Friday, and then I caught the whole live feed of Tahoe yesterday, and it was epic. We're gonna get into that. That's gonna be our last thing for tonight. We're gonna start with Texas, and then we'll end out with Tahoe. Welcome, you guys. All right, let's get right into it. So we're going to start out, like I said, we're going to start out with Texas. So let me pull up the pictures from Texas. And Ashley Cotwlister did win this one. We are going to do the top 5 in this one, starting with Ivana, who did take 5th. So Ivana's become very, very consistent. This is, she's always placing top 5. So she is slowly creeping up that points list. And actually, I'm going to hit that list right now and refresh it. We're going to talk about some of the girls that are like on the cusp of those points. There's a lot of girls that are within like that 10 point all the way up to 18 point range. And that could end up going any which way in the next couple of weeks with these shows coming up. So we're going to talk about that towards the end. But Ivana looked great here. So let me pull up one of her front pose pictures. Went back to the blue suit, which I think is the better suit on her in general. Like I said, I didn't really have anything against the red one. I just liked the blue one better. And I did notice in these pictures too, that she does still have that connector pulling down on her skin there. So I'm wondering if she just needs to place the connector a little bit lower on her hip bone so it doesn't pull the skin like that. Because the way that the suit's actually sitting on her in the back, it frames her glutes really, really well. So I don't want her to really adjust that hip strap too much, but my eye immediately goes to that skin pull. So maybe just a matter of taking that connector and putting it down like an inch so it doesn't pull the skin down when she's in that front pose. Maybe that's the solution. And maybe it doesn't even make a difference. Maybe the judge doesn't even notice it, but it's the first thing my eye sees when I look at it. So I just like to get rid of those little skin folds from it pulling on her connector. But she looks really good here. Again, her issue that I've seen in the last few shows, is that she was too hard, that kind of thing. She is softening up and she's starting to fill out, those kinds of things as well. Again, beautiful, beautiful look, beautiful in the face. Really, really beautiful girl. When you turn it to the back, let's see how her glutes looked at this show. Let's see. She's a shorty. Ashley Cotwlister winning again. No, she actually lost this weekend, AJ. So we're going to get into that too. She did win one, but she lost one as well. So, let's see. Where am I at? I'm looking for a back pose of Ivana. Hang on a second. Why do they don't have any back poses of her? Am I just missing it? Oh no, I just missed a page. There we go. I was like, they gotta have some back poses. Okay. Yeah, so she's softening up, which is good. She needed to fill out a little bit more at this show, and there's actually quite a bit of a difference between this show and Tahoe. She was a lot fuller in Tahoe. I actually think that her Tahoe look was her best look that she's had so far. This was not a bad look on her, it just wasn't her best. She did, again, she's playing that game of I need to soften up a little bit because I know I'm too hard. And when you soften up a little bit, then you lose some of those lines, you lose some of that fullness, so some of that pop. So she's kind of playing that line right now. This particular show, I don't think her glutes look the best I've seen of her, but I do think they looked really good the following show, which was Tahoe in 2 days. So whatever she did between Texas and Tahoe, she did a good job of actually filling back out there. So again, 5th place is not a bad placing in this lineup, and it got her some more Olympia points, which she needs in order to keep moving up. And I think they did update it, so they did. So she's at well, that's interesting. They have her moved up with 10 points. They have her up in between Jennifer and Vanya. So I don't know if that's correct or it's just a misprint or something, because she's according to the point list, she's at 10, which would put her below Anya and below Adela. But I don't know. So that might just be a mistake as far as where they actually placed her on the point list. But she's moving up. And they may just not have calculated it right, because she did place third in Tahoe as well. But anyway, so she did a good job there. But again, we're going to get into Tahoe, and I think she actually looked better in Tahoe than she did here in Texas. And then we're going to go to Francesca Stocchio. So Francesca's continuing to compete. I personally don't think that's the best strategy in the world. She's qualified. She doesn't need to keep competing. She's going to keep getting these, fourth, fifth places, maybe third if she's lucky at this point. And she's just going to run her body down. If I was her, I would get off stage to Olympia at this point. There's no reason to continue to compete. However, I know she's doing Nashville Fit Show. So not sure exactly why. I don't see her winning any other shows. Like I said before, after Mexico, I was like, I understand why she did Tampa. That made sense. She wanted to put herself in the talk with the top 5 Olympians, that kind of thing. Total sense. Now she needs to get off stage. She's got a couple of months to make some improvements before Olympia. So get off stage and go fill those glutes out. You know what I mean? Looking at her in Texas, let's see. She's a little softer in Texas than she was the last show, which was Tampa. I'm going to turn her to the back. And same scenario here. She needs to go fill those glutes out. So this is not a bad look for her, and she's very consistent. She's, she's on the more muscular side. She's a little bit more on the hard side for her, that kind of thing. This is normal for Francesca. This is a good look for her. It's not a bad look at all. But she needs to go take some time and go get some fullness up into those glutes so that when Olympia gets here, she gets looked at. I understand why she's competing, but at this point, if I was her coach, I'd say, okay, let's shut it down. Let's go make some improvements. We've seen all of the judges. Let's make some improvements before we get to Olympia. That would be my 2 cents for her. Then we've got Carla in third. Let me pull up one of her front shots. This was an improved look for Carla as well, nice and full. This was a good call for her as far as shows concerned, because she compared very well to both Francesca and also to Ivana. Ivana is about the same size as Carla is, and they're similar in the amount of muscle that they carry. So this was actually a really good call for her. And then as far as how she compared, and then when you turn her to the back, this was one of the best glute looks I've seen on Carla. Now you can't see it so much here in the photos, but I did see it on the live feed. I did see it in the live on IG that she had some nice pop to those glutes. So I do think this was a really good look for her, and it's probably one of her best. I still would like to see her build a little bit more outer glute on the outside. I think that's the one piece that she's missing, because if you look at her from the back, she still looks pretty wide through the upper body, which she needs to have that. She's a short girl. So in order for her proportions to pop, she needs to be bigger. Like as far as her back is concerned and all those kinds of things, she needs to be a little bit bigger, because that's going to pull her waistline in. When you're small, when you're short, you have to exaggerate those proportions as much as possible. So I think what's going to help her push up and over the edge of like these third places and stuff that she's getting is if she can just continue to fill those glutes out on the outer part of those glutes. The rest of her glutes look good. She just needs to get that outer pop. And what I mean by that is when we go to look at Rihanna, okay? So Rihanna came in second, and Rihanna has that. So when we look at Rihanna I'm going to pull up her back shot first, because we were just talking about that with Carla. So when you look at her from the back and you see her in her back shot, she's got that outer pop that I was talking about. That's what Carla is lacking. So Rihanna has that outer pop on the upper part of her glute. That's what Carla needs, okay? Now, with Rihanna, this is the tightest she's been from the back. I mentioned this when we were talking about going into the preview, that she needed to tighten up. She needed to tighten up through her glutes and through her hamstrings in order to really be able to, potentially win a show kind of thing, which she did do here. This is probably the best I've seen her look from the back. She's nice and tight. Now she needs to work on that fullness. She mentioned that her feedback was that she needs to add some more muscle density, which I 100% agree with. That's where she's lacking right here. Shape is there. She's in shape. She's got tighter. That's what we wanted to see. But now she does need to fill some density out in those glutes so that they really pop when she gets on stage. That's just going to take some time. She doesn't need to grow size-wise. She needs to grow density-wise. She needs to get some thickness of that muscle inside there, which is just a matter of muscle maturity. Now I'd like to see her pull her arms down a little bit in this back pose too. I did actually mention that to her prior to this show. I'm looking at the back shots. She's almost there. The arms just need to straighten a little bit, because the way they are now, they just look like the elbows are kind of poking out. She can straighten those arms just down a touch. That's going to help to balance her a little bit more in her upper body. And then if you look at her from the front, I actually liked her front shot the best out of everybody in this show. I felt like her front shot was the most proportionate. Now, again, going back to that concept of she needs a little bit more muscle density, so that we see that through her, like her waistline, her shoulders, those kinds of things. Her overall shape, I felt like from the front was the best out of everybody on the stage. But she needs some thickness. Needs some thickness in that muscle, right? But I will say this is probably the tightest her waistline has been. She needs to kind of fill up and out a little bit with those shoulders. Same thing in the back. She needs just to fill those glutes out a little bit. And once she does that, she's going to be very, very hard to beat at that point, because she did take second place here. So it's just a matter of probably one more off season, and then she's going to be really a serious threat on all of these stages that she gets on, because she's got a beautiful look. And again, the shape that she has is going to be really, really hard to beat once she's filled out that density a little bit. So again, one more off season, she'll be right there. And then of course, Ashley Kaltwasser did win this show. Let me look at her from the front here. And when I was looking at the live feed and pictures and things like that, I actually felt like Rihanna won it from the front and Ashley won it from the back. From the front, Ashley, one of her critiques has always been that she needs to fill her shoulders out. That is still the case here. She really does lack in those shoulders, specifically with her lower body. She just needs to balance it out. Because she doesn't have that fullness in the shoulders, it actually makes her look a little blocky through the waistline. So she's got to be really careful about that. The more that you diet, the more you lose size, the more her shoulders tend to disappear on her. Now, this isn't a bad look on her, but she's got to be careful of this going into the Arnold and the Olympia. Okay, she's going to be going up against girls that have the size. All right. So when you look at her from the front, this isn't a bad front shot on her by any stretch of the imagination. But I just saw that Rihanna looked better from the front. Then when you turn it to the back, now where she gets hard to beat is through the 3D pop of her glutes. She has great 3D pop. She always has. She always will. Sometimes she's a little less full. Sometimes she's a little bit more full. I think her glutes looked pretty good right here, and I think she lost a little bit of that going into Tahoe. Now, the other thing that I'll notice here, too, is I believe she's been practicing a lot with her posing, and the reason why I say that is because she's tilted off to one side in her back pose. I tell you guys all the time, when it comes to posing practice, you need to practice on both sides, because this is the kind of thing that happens. You end up tilting. So that was the first thing. This is the only show, this show in Tahoe, these are the only two shows where I've seen she's actually doing that. So that tells me she's practicing her posing a lot, which she needs to do. That's her weakness. Her posing is absolutely her weakness. So you can tell she's practicing, but she needs to be working on that mobility. She needs to be practicing on both sides so she can even herself out, because it's really noticeable how she's tilting to one side in the back pose. So that's something she's got to pay attention to over the next couple of months. But again, her glutes are nice and full, and they've got that 3D pop. Now, if you're ever wondering the difference between a 3D pop and no 3D pop, look at her glutes in comparison to pretty much anyone else's glutes on this lineup in the top 5. She's got that 3D that none of the other girls have. She's got the outer part of the glute. I would say probably the one that's closest as far as the 3D pop is concerned would be Carla, but Carla's missing the outer pop. So when you put those things together, those two things together in Ashley, it makes it very difficult to beat her from the back. So that's why I say, from the front, I actually had Rihanna winning from the front, but I had Ashley from the back. And typically in bikini, if you're winning from the back, you're going to win the show. So that's typically how that goes. Thanks for the reminder. Yes, always pose on both sides. I can't stress it enough. This is the first time I've ever seen this be an issue for Ashley, but it was an issue both in this show and in Tahoe as well, where she was tilted a little bit. So with that, she did win this show. That brought, and again, I think they may have messed up the points a little bit, because I'm looking at the point list right now. And again, Ivana is right underneath Jen Dory. Jen Dory has 16 points and Ivana has 10. So there's a few girls in between there. I think they just put her in the wrong spot for Ivana. But that brought Rihanna up to 13 points. And then Ivana again got some points here. I have a feeling they just haven't updated Ivana, because Ivana got points both at this show and at Tahoe as well. So I'm not sure exactly if Ivana's is right or not. Carla is now up to 10 points now after this show as well. So those are the ones that popped up in the point ranks. So as you can see, these point qualifications are getting super tight as we get into these last few shows. It's literally going to come down to the last two shows, which are Powerhouse and Phoenix. Those are the last two shows that girls have to qualify, win, or get points.
And that's it for the Texas Pro wrap up. Now, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe on this video. We will be also releasing the Tahoe Pro wrap up later on this week. So make sure you turn on those notifications so you know when it goes live, and you can watch that one for wellness and bikini and that upset that happened at Tahoe. Woohoo for Aaron Stern going back to the Olympia. So that'll be coming up later on this week. Turn on those notifications.